So, welcome to my weekly life, something I'm still learning how to do on Substack, and then, of course, learning what to do with the life after the fact. But I want to come on here and talk about a seemingly random topic, but a topic that is so important to any new business owner and is so important to actually growing your business. And it sounds a little boring, but once you get into it, it's really exciting. And that is how to track your numbers, how to track your sales, how to track your clients, how to track your leads, how to track your cash, right? So I want to talk about everything that I track in my business. And there's two reasons why I track there's three reasons why I track my numbers. One is practicality. Duh, I want to know what's happening in my business. I want to make sure it's growing. I want to make sure that I have the cash that I need. I want to make sure that I have the cash that I project. I want to make sure that I have the cash that I want. So, from a practical point of view, it helps me make decisions. It helps me make sure that I am on track with my goals. The second reason is growth. What we track grows. The thing that you take the best care of grows the most healthily. If you take really good care of your skin, then hopefully you don't get quite as many wrinkles around your eyes because you take good care of your skin because you have a routine. Same thing is true for your numbers. What you track grows. When you track your sales grow. When you track your cash grows. When you track your investments, they grow. Of course, all, gotta know what you're doing to make it grow, much like with the skincare, right? If you apply the wrong skincare, then you're gonna get wrinkles or acne or whatever. But that's neither here nor there. Third reason is mindset, right? I want to become intimate. I want to understand properly what's going on in my business. And the more I open myself up to, looking at my numbers, understanding my numbers, the more I actually step into the identity of a wealthy person. Because guess what wealthy people do? We look at our numbers. We track our numbers. We understand what's happening, right? So to the best of your ability, you want to know at any given point how much you sold, how much you've proposed but not yet realized in sales, how much cash you have, how much cash is coming in, when and where and from where, and what your savings and investments are doing. So there's a few things I track. And so I track I track my leads. And I track my leads in the sense of I'm actually keeping track of who those people are and what they're up to in the world so that I can follow up. But the second way in which I track my leads is I keep track of the absolute numbers of the new people that I have connected with. I don't know yet if I'll become their client, if they'll become my client, etc. But I've connected with a new person through my business. I keep track of the number of people that I have nurtured enough to now be able to invite them to a sales call. I keep track of those people regardless of whether they accept or turn me down. I keep track of the number of proposals I've made. So I say proposals and not sales because I mean it. I keep track of the number of sales calls I've actually had, and then I keep track of the number of proposals I have made on those sales calls, because sometimes I get on a call and I'm like, listen, you're not ready to work with me. So I don't even propose, right? But when and if I propose, I keep track of that absolute number as well as the dollar amount that I have proposed. Because now I can go in, I can look at, okay, great, well, I'm not having a lot of calls, but I'm connecting with a lot of people, so I know where I have to go to look and examine and improve my process. I have now to improve the process of nurturing my leads into getting on a call with me in the first place. And Susan is watching my live. How amazing. Hi, Susan. This is the second live I ever have done on Substack. Super excited. So again, we track our numbers so that our business, our income, our wealth can grow. So of course we want to start with the income that we have. We want to increase the income. So I'm looking at the leads that I have. And now I can look at, okay, great, if I have a bunch of calls, but none of these people say yes to working with me, now I have to look at my sales jobs. Now I have to look at the skills that I employ in actually speaking with a lead on a call and how I sell on that call. So you know exactly where I need to go to improve your process. That's one thing I track. I already talked about the leads, the actual humans, the names of the humans that I'm connected with and what they're up to in the world. Of course, I track my expenses and my month income, as well as my quarterly expenses, etc. So the way I do that is the minute someone signs on with me and the contract is signed, you know, they may pay in full, they may be on a payment plan, but the minute I have the contract, that all goes into a big spreadsheet that I have where I just keep track of what's the cash that came in this past month and what's the cash that is projected to come in over the next few months based on the already signed contract. So those are payment plans. And then I mirror that with my expenses so I know exactly how much cash I can expect to have at the end of every single month for the entire year. And of course, I want that amount to go up. But that now also allows me to make decisions. It allows me to make spending decisions. That also allows me to make spending decisions. That allows me to make decisions as far as my fees are concerned, as far as, hey, can I go on vacation, or do I really need to spend the next month just connecting with people, selling to people because I want to increase the cash that I have, etc., etc. Now, Susan, I see that you have a question, so you're welcome to just pop the question in the chat, and I will be so happy to do my best to answer. So, I track my cash, I track my expenses. What else do I track? I track my sales. So, how do I track the nurturing? Okay, so I'm going to talk about sales and then get back to the nurturing. So sales, in addition to tracking my monthly actual income and cash that I have sitting in the bank, I track how much I sell. A lot of my clients actually pay on payment plans, right? So I may sell a $10,000 package, but that person chooses to pay in three in three installments of, let's call it $3,500, right? So I've sold $10,000, of which in April I've realized $3,500, and I'll realize another $3,500 in June, and so on and so forth. Cash follows sales, so I want to make sure on a monthly and a quarterly basis how much I have actually sold. So right now I can go and I can look into a little spreadsheet that I have and go, okay, great. To date in 2026, I've sold this much. And to date in April, I have sold this much. And then I can go, oh my God, in April, I sold more than I sold all of the first quarter. So I'm doing really well. Trends going up, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So those are all of the things that I track in my business. Now, how do you track the nurturing? So Susan, I'm curious if you are wanting to just hear about how I nurture, if you want to hear about, how I keep track of who I'm in a conversation with, or if you just want to hear about the numbers that I track. I talked a little about this just now. So I actually keep track of the number of people that I nurture, and I keep track of where are they at in the process. Did I just recently connect with them and I don't know where things are going to be going? Or have I recently invited them to a call, but they said, you know what, I'm not quite ready to even talk about working with you. Maybe I have proposed to them, right? So I have two spreadsheets. I have one spreadsheet with two tabs. In one tab, I just keep track of literally all of the names of all of the people that are in my world. So these are people that have contacted me. These are people that I have contacted. These are people anywhere from, hey, we just exchanged a couple of messages on Instagram, to people that I have proposed to work together, but they turned me down. This is my not yet list, right? These are people that I'm actively nurturing. And typically I have in there just a little, like a few summarizing sentences of what they've got going on in their world. And to the best of my ability, I also keep track of what's the next step I want to take with them. So for example, if that person just told me, I'm going to quit my job by June and I'm moving to Vietnam, then in like sometime in June, I'm going to want to reach out to them and say, hey, how did the move go? Are you all settled? How do you feel? What I do for nurturing, and when you know to engage with a potential call to invite them to work with you. Okay, great. So this is a really deep question. Susan, I'm going to pop into a DM and send you a few articles and resources that I have to answer that question a little more in depth. And I'd love to hear, of course, where you're at with your leads and how you nurture your leads right now. But it really depends. There's the personal nurturing and then there's automated nurturing, right? Anyone who comes into my business via my email list, I have nurturing sequences set up for those people there, and my email listserv knows exactly where they want to go based on their behavior. But for personal leads that I want to join my one-on-one spaces or my group coaching spaces, I typically offer a very, very personal touch, right? And this is again where I keep a spreadsheet, where I keep some notes, handwritten and in spreadsheets, organized and disorganized, of all of the people that are in my world. And when I think of nurturing, I think of how can I serve this person? And of course, the creme de la creme of service is come into my space. Yes, there's a payment, but come into my space and I'll support you all the way to make your dreams and your goals happen. But sometimes that also looks like, hey, so-and-so, I just thought of you and I read this article and I think it would really resonate with you, particularly this paragraph, and I just send it off. Or again, I keep track of, okay, great, they want to come to Vietnam in May. So I'm going to check in with them the second week of May and go, hey, how did the flight go? This must be a bit of a nervous system shock. How are you doing? And then, of course, everything else requires a little more nuance than I can cover in this live that I intended to just be about how I track my numbers. So Susan, I'll be in touch and let's chat a little more about this. So yes, I track the number of people I nurture. I track the actual humans that I nurture. I track my sales. I track my proposals. And I track my realized cash and expenses. Again, I all do that for three main reasons: practical decision making, what I track grows, and then identity work, right? Identity work isn't just sitting down and affirming and meditating on the person you want to become. It's actually beginning to do the things that your future self, that your higher self, that your wealthy self will be or would be doing, and beginning to do them now. So you're stepping into the energy, you're stepping into the identity of that person. I do want to keep these lives short. I hope this was helpful. I don't know if people can comment on lives after the fact, but if you watch this and you have questions, if you can, then comment, and if you can't, then send me a DM. And I'd love to be in touch with you and hear where you're at in your business, in your journey, in life, and let's have a conversation. I'll catch you next week, similar time, same date.